Monroe Doctrine was designed in 1823 by former 5th President James Monroe and his Secretary of State John Quincy Adams to define the spheres of influence of the United States as all the American continents and Caribbean islands, countering imperial expectations of both Russia and the United Kingdom in the Pacific Northwest. In the early 1800s, Russia was expanding their possessions in Alaska and the Oregon Territory on their way towards Mexico, while the British Empire, which already had some forts at Vancouver Island, expected to jointly dominate with the United States the Pacific Northwest coast. So the United States was interested, in light of the independence process occurring throughout Central and South America, with the example of Peru, which was just being liberated in 1823, with lots of battles led by Simón Bolívar and San Martín, which provided President Monroe the realization that all peoples of the Americas are entitled to free countries independent from European imperialism. And it was in the best interest of the United States to protect this new formed republic so that they would not fall again as prey of European powers, which actually happened for a short time with Mexico, briefly invaded by France during the 1870s. Throughout the 19th century, the Monroe Doctrine was consistently applied and successfully led to the Alaska Purchase from the United States to Russia and the Louisiana's Purchase from the United States to France. Well-defined boundaries with the British Empire were sought, many of which remain valid today, as is the case of the Canada-United States border. Another border United States had to defend was the border between Venezuela and then British Guyana, because Great Britain was trying to expand its South American colony, to which the United States opposed because that would contradict Monroe Doctrine. So, United States sided with Venezuela in 1899 in order to preserve Venezuelan territories southeast of the Orinoco and west of the Essequibo River. Unfortunately, the United Kingdom possessed greater resources and was able to bribe a Russian judge who established a border quite favorable to the interests of the United Kingdom. Thus, Venezuela was void of a huge territory. But in general, Monroe Doctrine has enabled United States and South American republics to prevent being invaded by foreign powers. Unfortunately, during recent years, foreign powers such as Russia, China, Iran are seeking the installation of a number of military bases in a number of South American, Caribbean, and Central American countries, such as Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Bolivia. Hezbollah and Hamas from the Middle East, which are terrorist organizations based in the Middle East, are also planning to expand into Latin America. United States must renew its commitment to the Monroe Doctrine, which was cleverly designed by Secretary of State John Quincy Adams, who warned that it had to be a sole United States policy which could not be involved with the United Kingdom, which initially was expected to co-sign the Monroe Doctrine with the United States, as it would have conveyed an image of weakness of the United States against the rest of the world. Communist ideologies embraced by a significant proportion of leadership in the United States Democratic Party have been friendly to the rights and expectations of transcontinental invaders into the Americas. The current United States open border policy, which allows freeing prisons in Latin American countries so that convicts may come into the United States and help with drug trafficking and human trafficking, is a perfect example why Monroe Doctrine must be soon re-established in order to help out the rest of countries in the hemisphere to follow the rule of law without constantly sending their asymmetrical war weaponry to weaken and destroy the United States from within, as they do with the drug trade and human smuggling. Marco Rubio, as a choice of Department of State, is fabulous in the sense that there is no other diplomat in the United States more aware of the specificities in each of the Latin American countries oppressed by communism. During his 14-year tenure at the U.S. Senate, he has consistently addressed individual situations in Nicaragua, Cuba, and Venezuela. His statements are always in both English and Spanish, and he is likely to travel effortlessly across all the geography of the Americas. Erik Prince also bases his plans for leading a private military enterprise into Venezuela to get rid of Nicolás Maduro and enable President-elect Edmundo González Urrutia come into power. And that should be done within the next few weeks, as inauguration will take place on January 10th. It will be interesting to see how the governments of Edmundo González Urrutia and Donald Trump will deal in 2025 so that they coordinate successful extraction policies to get rid of dictatorships in Cuba and Nicaragua and maybe Bolivia. Monroe Doctrine also has the corollary of stopping wars overseas. As the United States reassesses its commitment to Monroe Doctrine and the freedom within the Americas, we will count on a 2-century-old justification to limit or end United States involvement in wars in Russia, Ukraine, Middle East, and other regions of Eurasia. Eurasia has militaries of Europe, Russia, and Iran to deal with their internal continental affairs, while Africa seems to voluntarily fall into the realm of Russia and China. As the narrative of decolonization takes root in African countries, European assistance and investment becomes scarcer. It remains to be seen if Africa wishes to grow its own unified military power or if it will depend on Europe, Russia, China, and the United States. Back to the territories covered under the Monroe Doctrine, Diosdado Cabello in Venezuela jokes about Marco Rubio's designation as Secretary of State. He is a well-versed reader of current events in the United States, and he knows that Marco Rubio was a tough choice for Donald Trump. Diosdado Cabello, which is a high-ranking official of the Sun drug cartel and is responsible for most repression and human rights violations within Venezuela, is well aware that some supporters of Donald Trump would prefer not to have Marco Rubio as Secretary of State, and he will try, as all communist governments do, to infiltrate the Republican Party and American politics so that any minor mistake Marco Rubio provokes during his term will become sufficient grounds for Donald Trump to fire him and replace him by another candidate for Secretary of State in the manner that already happened with Tillerson and Pompeo. Therefore, it is crucial that Marco Rubio and Donald Trump stick together during the whole term of this administration. It is important that both of them speak frequently and that Marco Rubio always makes his decisions in consultation with President Donald Trump, because if Marco Rubio happens to be fired from being Secretary of State, it will be a big plus for Latin American dictatorships, which in reality are fearful of Marco Rubio's determination in ending dictatorships all across the continents, which are the object of Monroe Doctrine. Another welcome feature of incoming Donald Trump administration is the replacement of the expensive Department of Education with a new online accreditation college system that will allow to emit bachelor degrees online within all realms of human knowledge. Here in Venezuela, I own a company which does exactly that. It is called Cine TV, School of Cinema and Television. We offer university equivalent degrees in cinematography using the Google Workspace platform. Our professors are located in Mexico, Argentina, Colombia, and Venezuela, while our students are within different cities in Venezuela and Brazil. Some activities are synchronous, requiring students and professors to meet online in scheduled video conferences, and other activities are asynchronous, while monitored on a daily or weekly basis. Modules are intensive and have a duration of 6 weeks, and after a 3-week recess, another module starts. And they are able to produce their senior thesis, which is a short video of professional quality using actors of the regions, and they may co-partner with other students studying at other cities as a perfect appetizer on how international film co-productions work. Therefore, after ample experience in online education since the beginning of the COVID epidemic, I hereby, Rubén Rivero Capriles, President of Cine TV, Escuela de Cine y Televisión, hereby certify that it is possible to produce high-quality education online to confer bachelor's degrees. I've done it for many years successfully, and I actually think there are a few advantages over in-class education. School administrators do not have to worry on this excessive protection of students who feel harassed or victimized by any woke cause. Academic institutions are designed to provide high quality academic knowledge. Ideological education should be confined to families and communities. But adding a social ideological curriculum to academic institutions increases prohibitively their costs. And private academic institutions must decrease their costs because the competition with free education is every time more formidable. There are many good quality free education opportunities, and private education online must distinguish by personalized online contact with the students, including careful grading of assignments, which is something unavailable on YouTube short videos. Thus, it will be a great pleasure for me to contribute to Donald Trump's team efforts into conveying the most extensive online library of educational resources in all fields of knowledge available for all Americans, and hopefully available also for inhabitants of Central America, South America, and the Caribbean, in an adequate interpretation of the Monroe Doctrine, which is America for the Americans. The Caribbean and South America are not overseas. Most Americans know that on the Pacific coast, you may travel from Alaska to Canada, United States, Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, and Chile. However, there is also an eastern route which requires short Caribbean Sea travels as follows. From Florida, it is a short boat ride to Cuba. You cross the full length of Cuba, and you have a short boat ride to Haiti. From Haiti, you cross the land border into the Dominican Republic, which is a short boat ride to Puerto Rico. From Puerto Rico, there is a short boat ride to the Virgin Islands. The Virgin Islands are a short boat ride from St. Martin. St. Martin is a short boat ride to St. Kitts and Nevis. St. Kitts and Nevis is a short boat ride to Antigua and Barbuda. From Antigua, it is a short boat ride to Guadeloupe. From Guadeloupe, there is a short boat ride to Dominica. From Dominica, there is a short boat ride to Martinique. From Martinique, there is a short boat ride to St. Lucia. From St. Lucia, there is a short boat ride to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, there is a short boat ride to both Barbados and Grenada. And from Grenada, there is a short boat ride to Trinidad and Tobago. From Trinidad and Tobago, there is a short boat ride to mainland Venezuela and the Paria Peninsula, which is close to the border of Guyana, and then Suriname, French Guiana, Brazil, Paraguay, and Argentina. So it is incorrect to catalog the Western Hemisphere as overseas. because we are really not overseas. All of these countries and islands that we have been mentioning are within territorial waters of each other. The Caribbean Sea is more like a lagoon, or the Mediterranean. It is completely surrounded by land. For the United States, ending war overseas means getting rid of wars between Ukraine and Russia, getting rid of wars between Israel, Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas, which will be quite difficult because Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas are currently sending infiltrated spies into Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Bolivia so that they can continue their destruction of the United States from within. That is why the deportation plans of illegal immigrants of Donald Trump are so important, and it is also important to facilitate legal immigration into the United States. For example, if I wanted to contribute to Donald Trump's online educational program at their headquarters in Washington, D.C., I would have to go through a highly expensive red tape bureaucracy, which at this moment prevents me from seeking to help in that fashion. The current immigration system makes it unattractive to people who could contribute to the United States to arrive, and makes it very easy for people who tend to break the law to circumvent the system. During a recent interview, Erik was telling about a friend of his who wanted to seek American citizenship in the legal way, and he was appalled by all the restrictions similar to a third world country. Here in Venezuela, if you wish to run errands like the routine presentation of financial statements of your company every year to the notary public, that takes forever. They ask for a second and third certified accountant. They overcharge you with fees. They have you go into their office every few weeks. And the whole process is so opaque and so cumbersome that just many companies prefer just not to deal with it and operate ignoring any financial reporting requirements until a certain time accrues, and then banks do not want to renew your bank accounts because some of your paperwork has expired. So many people just pay to persons who are familiar in circumventing the system so that they arrange the paperwork the easy but illegal way. Such unfair procedures that punish hard workers and reward lazies are also being noticed in the United States immigration system. It is my hope that the legal immigration system of the United States becomes more simple so that qualified applicants for available positions in the United States can be easily filled, in addition to deporting illegals. But in any case, Donald Trump's idea of opening a platform for a comprehensive education system for online bachelor degrees is fantastic, and it should be one of the backbones of his new administration, because that will completely change for the better the inefficiencies widely known in current education system, which in my opinion as a professor during my whole life has miserably failed.